We were young. We were about 19 when we met, and we were part of a youth group. And you kind of sometimes can be put on a bit of a pedestal, you know, the so-called perfect couple, and both of us come from non-Christian backgrounds. I come from a blended family, and yep, we were going out, and then of course I fell pregnant. And unplanned pregnancy or abortion, those issues were never discussed. And when Peter had proposed to me, and I said yes. At first he bought flowers when we found out that I was pregnant, but I was scared in those early few weeks, and a family member said that you're young, you never get ahead in life, financially it will be a burden starting out this way. And before we know it, the joy changed, and fear of what people thought. I couldn't even tell my parents at that stage. I was flatting. And so before we know it, we were seeing a doctor, and the doctor just didn't give me any other options, you know, talking about adoption or anything like that, support. It was just basically, yes, you're doing the right thing, booked me in. You kind of, at that stage it was over 3 days, you had so-called counsel, and the counsellor basically, the man, Peter, wasn't involved. She agreed with all my fears, that I was scared that I was going to have a child, that Pete was going to leave me, that would not know father, as I didn't know my father, and my mum didn't know her father, and it seemed a bit of a historical thing. And so the counsellor said, yeah, what you're doing is the right thing. I'll hold your hand through the procedure. Then there was another lady that explained the procedure, and she was actually about 7 or 8 months pregnant at the time. And I thought at that time, oh, maybe this isn't so bad, because surely someone that far along in a pregnancy wouldn't condone this. And it wasn't a baby, it was just a blob. And it sounded like an easy procedure. So then when the time came, it's kind of you're in this room of other girls with either their mum or partner or whoever, and it's an eerie kind of silence, because at the end of the day you're there for the same reason. And I remember being called, and I was awake through the whole procedure. So for me, I literally felt at that moment that my life sucked out of me. It was a life gone, but part of me went with it. And it was just like 10 minutes that totally changed my life. And so from then on, I felt that I couldn't talk to anyone. I felt ashamed for what I did, and I felt this emptiness, because even though I did it as I felt I needed to do it to keep the peace and not repeat my past family and move on. And of course Pete and I did get married, but it was like, for him it was a quick fix. It's over and done with, don't discuss it anymore. And for me, I had a friend come back from the UK who was pregnant. Her baby was due around the same time my baby would have been due, in April. And so through that, I thought I could have been going through this pregnancy. So inwardly, I started to go through a bit of depression of that.
Some people talk about this in terms of it being a freedom of choice, or even a human rights issue. Others would say it's more of a moral principle, or even an issue at a spiritual level. How would you see it?
I guess I would never condone someone to go and have an abortion. In that, because there are other options of adoption and all that. And I guess in saying that, probably it's part of that comment, like walking in someone's shoes. That you can say all these things. For me, at my young age when I was pregnant, prior to being pregnant, unplanned, I was against abortion, but I didn't really fully understand what that was about until I was going through it and I had all this peer pressure. Yeah. Because as a person I had my own belief and a whole lot of baggage from my family. Peter had his stuff, and you have all this peer pressure, and if it's not all positive, then you just want it over and you think, just get it finished. And I think it's just for people to see the other side, that the pressure that sometimes people can be in during this.
You must often go back to that day when you made that decision, that 10 minutes that changed your life. Is there anything that you think could have made a difference for you in the choice that you made that day?
I think I think for me, I wish I felt that I could have told my mum, because it might have been a totally different outcome in that. And because I found out afterwards that my mum had another child, she's to different fathers, but one, she actually went through the pregnancy at 20 and adopted him out. So she chose life regardless of being a single mum, and I think that I wish that I'd known that earlier, that, you know. And when I had Hayden, it was only 2 years down the track. I mean, was my situation that different? We were a lot better financially, you know.
Do you think as a Christian community we need to change the way in which we respond as opposed to people feeling like they're being judged or criticised for decisions they've perhaps made in the past, more of a perhaps area for grace, for understanding, for compassion?
I think there needs to be a bit more grace and compassion. An old song I heard years ago when I first gave my heart to the Lord, and it's one of the words, I don't remember anything else, but it said, "Don't shoot the wounded." And that stuck with me. And I think there's a lot of broken people out there, and it's just being watchful of the way you speak, because if you're harsh in judgment, there could be someone standing there who are broken and want to talk to someone, and it just shuts them up. And so they carry around this hurt that affects them in their life, in relationships and other people. So it's being mindful of the way you speak out things.
In terms of the church's response to people in this situation, again, going back to your own circumstances, what more can we do to support people that are in crisis pregnancy situation, the women particularly, but also the men? How can we come alongside and support people to make good decisions?
That's probably something I'm still working on. Yeah. And I think my husband's only started speaking out more himself. It's taken him a lot longer. And I feel that it's good to have a male's voice, because men don't always know who do they go to, who can they talk to. I think it's been educated. And maybe through the Buttons Project that can help that. There's also, I network with like Family Life International and post-abortion trauma healing service down Christchurch, Carolina, and it's just continual networking and just sharing about it and talking about it.
Support, love, understanding, before and after. Before
and after, and not allowing it to be, it still was a taboo subject at the end of the day, and I think we still need to be mindful of words, and I think that goes with anything, you know. It's, if you're too harsh and judge, it makes people defensive and closed down. So it's opening up the opportunity to talk and giving that support.